if this is a good topic, but maybe we recently, when we were hanging out, we played a drinking game. We didn't really play it properly because we maybe moved past drinking games, but we played Asshole, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking in my head, I was just like, what's the ranking of the drinking games that you play mainly through college, but it definitely lingered into our 30s. And these days, we don't play a lot, but after playing Asshole, I was like, we should probably still be playing that game. That was pretty fun.
That game is really good.
So
it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So Asshole's a card game, but I mean, I've played a lot, and you've played a lot. So like when I was just thinking broadly, I played you play a lot of baseball. Did you play baseball?
Love baseball.
I absolutely loved baseball. I made no effort to hit a home run. I just hit singles, and I was really fucking good at singles. That's just what I did.
Do you play with a quarter or a ping pong ball?
Quarter,
yeah.
Yeah.
Some people play with a ping pong ball.
Yeah, we always played with a quarter, and it was at the time when Ichiro Suzuki was playing for the Mariners, and that dude just hit singles. And that's just what people called me. It was just like, and that's all I did. And he was actually my favorite baseball player for that very reason. And then
dude, I mean, I don't even like baseball, and Ichiro is a fucking baller.
That's a decent game. That's a pretty fun drinking game. It's a good game because it gets people excited. Like it's got something that it gets people cheering, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good one. I really like that one. Had a lot of fun playing that. Flip Cup. Flip Cup's pretty good.
I'm terrible at it. That's the problem. I'm notoriously not good at Flip Cup. My fingers don't work that way.
Yeah, that one's kind of nervy because you're relying on like
the stress.
6 other, depending on, I mean, it can be as large as you want, but like average, like 6 aside.
If you haven't played it, it's like essentially 5 people on each team, and you put a cup on the edge of a table. You have to flip it so it lands face down.
Yeah, there's usually beer in it. You drink the beer as fast as you possibly can, and then you have to flip the cup. And if you're in a line, you land your cup, you flip it, and then it goes to the next person. They drink, and it's like a relay race, essentially.
It's a great party game because you don't need to learn jack shit about the game. And it's low skill in that anyone can go and try. Some people are way better than others, and some people cheat with like they have a hand. Different friends, or you're just like known offenders. You're like, hey, I'm watching you, buddy.
Right.
Flip Cup is pretty good. Beer Pong's obvious. The problem with Beer Pong is that not enough people get to participate. I would say Beer Pong is not a good party game. It's a lot of fun.
It's either one-on-1 or 2v2.
Yeah, right. Like
so you got 4 people max.
It's a little harder to get big groups of people going.
Beer Pong's got to be the number one, like broadly speaking, though, right? Like, I mean, when we were college age, it was like a phenomenon
for sure. I mean, I made a lot of beer pong. I mean, I made some fancy ass beer pong tables.
When I first met you, you had what, from an outside person's perspective, something that you would find in one that was just in college or somebody that was really into like weird BDSM things, because you had a fucking like table suspended from the ceiling, and it was four ways, so it was like a big X, right?
It started out, it was gravity pong is what I named it. And I made this table, and I put like an I-ring on each corner, and then a pulley system. So a rope went up, and it was hovering. So if you bumped the table, it would literally move back and forth. And this was in our unfinished basement in our townhouse. And I was like 25, 26 or something like that. It started with that, and we had a big party. We had a good time. And then I decided I was going to make it into a cross. So we doubled up the ropes, and then it went 2 ways. So instead of just being 2 versus 2, it was 2 versus 2, and then another team was throwing across each other. It was actually pretty awesome thing.
It was cool. It was really cool. But
ridiculous.
I remember before I knew you, I came to your house the first time, and people were like, gravity pong. And I was like, I don't know what that means. And I went downstairs for the first time and saw it. And I was like, what the fuck is this thing? Like, because I didn't know you from Adam at that point in time. So I was just like, is this guy like this is
what is
beer
happening?
pong by night, but in the daytime,
BDSM.
like he flips this over and straps his sex slave on it or something like that. What the fuck is this? But it was pretty cool. I mean, to be fair,
Yeah.
either way, really, like
It
no
was,
no shame there if that's your thing. But yeah, that's cool. But beer pong, like, just, I mean, there was like a league for it. And
Absolutely.
it was just like a massive phenomenon, and I don't think that it's gone away. I'm pretty sure kids are still playing fucking beer pong to this day at college campuses across the country.
Absolutely. What about King's Cup? Do you play much of that?
Yeah, I played a lot of it, but it's not my favorite.
I never liked the King's Cup. I do not remember the specific rules of the card game, but I know that throughout the game, people dump their drinks into the mix. There's this, and you just get this terrible concoction.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a scenario where someone has to drink it, and that's not like, that's just a bad fucking time.
Yeah,
like,
it's bad.
You just get it's just gross and not necessarily anything. Certainly not something I would play these days.
No. Horse races are really fun. I always enjoyed that.
I always hated horse races, and the problem is there's no skill. It's all RNG.
Well, yeah, but that's the appeal. It doesn't need to be. Not everything needs to be skill based.
I need to have,
especially when you're trying to get fucked up, Nick.
Even if it's a small influence, I want some small factor where I can influence it and not just be like, I'm helpless here, and everyone's like cheering. I mean, I get it, because literally everyone in the room. The way horse races works is literally, I think it's just 4 horses, because they each have
it's associated with a suit
for the cards. So it's just like you flip over the heart suit, and then the horse moves forward, and that is literally the race. And people are betting drinks on each horse, and they're just screaming out like, "Go heart!" and like, all that's very funny. I just wanted a way to influence the race in my life.
The one that got me most drunk was ride the bus. Ride the bus will get you fucked up, especially if you ride the bus multiple times. That one's really bad.
I have played Ride the Bus. I don't remember the exact rules on.
Yeah, it's foggy to me as well. But all I know is it's a card-based game as well. But you essentially get put on the bus if you do poorly, and then you have to drink a lot of booze, like a lot of booze. So that one got me pretty good. Quarters honestly got me pretty good as well, which is like baseball is like a spin-off from Quarters. Sure. But yeah, that one I've gotten real drunk playing Quarters too.
Before youth games, we would go to the fraternity, which was I was out of college, but some of our friends were still in it, and some other of our friends were in the fraternity, and they would do this big baseball game, like a wiffle ball game. And I don't remember the exact rules, except that you had to have as they hit this wiffle ball, you had to catch it in your beer cup, your solo cup. The only thing I remember about it is that these fucking frat guys, and some of them are great guys, but some of them are not, and we spent most of the time just arguing about the rules. Not me. Like, me and our friend Evan would just sit there and be like, we never get to play the game because these bros just argue about the logistics of the game the whole time. But on paper, it was a pretty fun game when we actually played it.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it, but there was a game that we started playing like pretty late in like my party phase of my life, and the premise is you get like a beer pong table or a table of any sort, I guess, and then you put 2 cans of beer in front of you, one on each side, right? So it's a 2-player game, so 2 on each side, and you put a can on the end, and it's a ping pong based game, and you fucking throw the ping pong ball at the can of your opposing, the other person's beer, essentially. If you hit the can with the ping pong ball, you get to you start the beer or the game with the beers uncracked, right? And you crack your beer once you hit it, and then you start chugging your beer, right? And you go until the opposing team recovers the ball and puts it on the table and says down, right? So you continue to drink and drink and drink until they get the ball. And so that would, get people just like fucking ripping ping pong balls, because you want the ball to bounce and go somewhere where it's hard for them to get it, so that you can drink as much as your beer. The objective is to finish both of your beers as fast as possible, and that's the winner. But when you're done, like you're at the end of your beer, you have to drink it down so much that like even like the small remnants at the bottom of the can are gone,
Yeah.
because you have to hold the beer can over your
And
head
no drip.
and it can't drip. And if it drips, you have to, you start with a fresh beer. And I can't remember the name of it, but it's pretty fucking funny, especially if you have like a big space to play in. It can be annoying, but also pretty hilarious. So we played that a lot.
Nice. I've definitely played that.
The fuck is the name of that
I
game?
don't know. I remember the dripping for sure. We have as you would do, like you can invent your own games, and we're heading there. You're next. But my buddy came over while I had a house, and I was like right in the thick of it. I was a block away from the football stadium for the Utes. Right, that's where I live. Well, I went to school, but he just showed up, and he had two things: a bunch of beer, some Guinness, and a movie of Ladder 49. I don't know if you keep up with Joaquin Phoenix's movies.
Isn't that about 9/11? Or no?
No, Ladder 49 he's just a firefighter. I actually like the movie quite a bit. Joaquin Phoenix is a firefighter. John Travolta, I think it's John Travolta, is like the mentor firefighter, right?
All right.
And essentially, it's a really sad story where he ends up dying in a fire, but it's got a pretty good arc. And we created all these rules. It's just like, if you see if they do Irish car bombs, you do Irish car bombs. They do it twice in the movie. So the rules, it was like just get you fucked up. And they're like, we wrote them all down, and then just people learned. And we watched Ladder 49 probably like a dozen times because people just learned, and they're like, oh, we're fucking playing Ladder 49 and we're gonna go over there. And it's like, if you see a goose, you drink. And it's like, what? And it's like, if they talk about Catholicism, you drink. And it's just like a whole list of like, for this movie that's like no one's talking about this. Like, what the fuck is this random ass firefighter movie? But we watched it over and over, and it was a fun time. But which leads me into early on when I met you, came over to your apartment, and there was a game that had been invented. The game's called Freezer Ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna need this thing existed before I ever showed up. So what is this?
Yeah, so my apartment was real shitty, and it turned into like a party apartment for sure. We would have like
It's where you ended the night.
It's where you ended the night. We'd go out to bars, and then a bunch of people would come back to my apartment, and we would fucking get even drunker. And we had this really shitty fridge and freezer, which was just what was in the apartment.
And because of your age, like, you weren't at the age where you were freezing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there was nothing in our freezer except for like
Jaeger.
vodka. Yeah.
Like,
There was just like vodka in the freezer, and that was it. Some ice, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't really remember the origins of the game, but basically it really wasn't. It was like a pretty casual drinking game where it wasn't like there were rules in set in place for like, you've got to drink at this juncture.
Yeah.
It was just more like drink and play this game. So what the game was you take a ping pong ball, and you would stand at one side of my apartment by our balcony, and you could see into our kitchen from the balcony, and we would open the freezer. This was really energy efficient game right here.
The freezer door would be open the entire night.
The freezer door would be open all night long. So one person would be trying to throw the ping pong ball across the room into the freezer, but the opposing team would have a blocker. But here's the kicker. So one person would stand by the freezer. They would stick their arm out in front of the freezer and try to block the ball from coming into the freezer from the person that was throwing it. Additionally, you had somebody called the spotter, and the spotter's job was to tell the player that was trying to block the ball when to bring their hand down, because they were blindfolded. So they would be blindfolded, and so the person would throw the ball at the freezer, and the person that was the spotter would say, now, go now. And they would have to bring their arm down and hopefully block the ball from going into the freezer.
Was there a rule if they caught the ball, it was like immediate? I feel like
I don't know. It was inning based. So it was like baseball kind of. So you'd have like a certain amount of throws, like 3 outs, and then you'd shift and the next team would go. And we would track score based off of it like that. But I don't remember catching specifically. Maybe that was a rule. I don't know.
I think I could be wrong on that one, but I do believe that there was different scoring if the ball managed to land in the door. I think that was a
Yeah.
different scoring
Yep.
compared to just in the freezer itself.
Yeah, yeah. So naturally, you get a bunch of like drunk people in an apartment, and people would like throw the ping pong ball as hard as they could, and so
Get in there.
to get it in there, and sometimes it would like go in and make like a very loud noise, but then everybody would scream freezer ball when it would go in, and so you scored points that way. And there was 9 innings like baseball. If you wanted to condense it down, you could do less innings, but typically we do 9 inning stretches. And it sounds stupid because it's real fucking stupid, but we really had a lot of fun with it. We played a lot of freezer ball. It kind of became like a thing. Like people would show up that we didn't know that well, and then like I might not know them by name, but they'd be like, "You're the freezer ball guy.
Yeah.
That's your
Yep.
place." I'm like, "Yeah, that's me."
Yeah, only certain places could do it. Like you just had a nice situation where the freezer, faced over the counter, and then you had a living area,
Right.
where you had a good 20 feet. It wasn't, you were throwing that ping pong ball a long ways, but that was a really stupid game that we played a lot and really have pretty fond memories of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just generally look back at it, it was like, that was pretty fun. We need to write down the rules so I can, like, when my daughter goes to college, you may listen. You're gonna find yourself in a situation and you've got this game all made. It's gonna change lives.
Yeah, no, it was. I wish I could remember how it came to be, because like, how do you come up with that? Like, I remember pretty early.
Alcohol is how you
Well,
come
yeah,
up
yeah,
with
for
it,
sure,
yeah.
for sure. I remember pretty early on, me and my roommate, we worked at the same place, and we got hams for Christmas, like from our company. It's like,
Like honey baked hams.
thanks for working for us. Here's a ham, which is
Great.
a weird thing, I would say. But anyways, we got these, hams, and we had them both in the freezer, and like they sat in there for like a year, like both of them. And we were like, what the fuck are we going to do with these hams? We're not eating these hams. Should we donate these hams?
It's like an 80s, 90s thing. Absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
it's just an old fashioned.
Right. We did not donate them. We decided that we were going to throw them off of our balconies down into like the common area of this apartment complex, which we did that. We totally fucking did that. And then at that point in time, there was just like no space. There was freed up space, I should say, because the hams were gone. And then that
You're like, what are we gonna do about
somehow
this
naturally
space?
progressed into let's make up this game that involves the freezer. So
That's incredible.
yeah. There's another one that I enjoyed quite a bit. I don't know if you ever played it. You probably did, because you were really close with this guy. But he had a house, and I'm pretty sure that it was like a well-established game. I only played it a couple of times, but it's the stupidest fucking thing in the world. But we would sit, like he would have everybody over. We would sit on his porch, and we would just be like drinking and talking and listening to music. And it was just this game called Green Car. And the whole premise of the game was you just sat there until a green car drove by, and you go, green car. And then everybody would drink whatever drink they had, finish their drink. And that was the game. But it was hilarious.
You had to finish your drink every time a green car came by.
Yeah. And
It's
everybody
pretty
would get
funny.
like
It's
excited,
really
like
good.
bounce up and down. Green car. So have you never played that
That
before?
sounds like a Pat game if I've ever heard
Yeah.
one. That's,
Yep, you're right.
I
Sure.
have not played that.
Sure,
No.
sure
Well,
was, Pat.
But I will tell you that the person in question has great ideas for a lot of things. And literally this person, there's multiple with that name actually, but this person that I know really loved Halloween, and no one would come to our house because their parents would walk by and be like, don't go to that fucking house. So he loved Halloween, and he took candy and he put it on the sidewalk, a trail to all the way like down our walkway to try to attract kids up to our house so we could give them candy. And we were just like sitting on the porch, just like, no one's going to come in here. Like, they clearly have been warned. Jesus Christ. The only other thing, I don't remember the rules, but I need to know if you've played it. Have you played golf? Because golf is a lot of fun. It's a card game. I don't remember the specific rules, but it takes a lot of time. You track, but you're tracking your score. And if you haven't, we should look into it and remedy it. Because I remember when I played, I had a real good time.
I don't think that I have. Maybe I have, but It's not ringing a bell.
Okay.
So
There's a lot of games out there.
what's the best one? We've been talking about it. What I mean, for me, it's got to be from like an enjoyment perspective. Like I really like baseball. I think baseball's a lot of fun. But I mean, like again, it's probably got to be beer pong, right? Like that's like a cultural phenomenon.
Probably because beer pong has a pretty good skill ceiling as well.
Yeah.
So like you can get really fucking good and you can have a lot of fun. Like we had parties. I made a lot of beer pong tables at my house. So like, yeah, that's probably the winner. It's just not it's not the mood for every party. Like sometimes card games need to be the one. Like if you have certain, depending who's all, like we said, like only so many people can play beer pong. If you
I was never good at beer pong. I was really bad at it. Yeah, I never got good. In fact, I lived with a mutual friend of ours for like 2 years almost in this big old giant house that it was his parents' house, but they were out of the country for an extended period of time. So I just basically lived in this giant basement alone, and he lived on the upper floor. So it was basically like we had 2 places of our own, but we wouldn't really see each other except on the weekends where I would show up with like a 30 pack of shitty beer, and we would play beer pong. And we had the entire time that we lived together, we had a running total of our beer pong games against one another. And,
nice.
And I beat him in 2 years. I beat him like 3 times.
Oh, no.
So we had a marker board, and he mark his wins, and it was just like a fucking like full wall of just like 5 or 4 and then across over and over and over again down to the floor. And I'm just like 3. People would show up and be like, "Is this real?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, it kicks my ass like all the time."
It's absolutely legit. So in closing with beer pong, because I think you probably know this story. I don't think I've told this story on the podcast. So I work in the construction industry, and at that time we had we were doing some glass handrail, and we had some glass pieces that were wrong, right? They had to be reordered. And these particular, I had 2 pieces. And if you push them together, they are the length of a beer pong table. And on each end, they randomly have a hole, which normally the fastener for the glass handrail goes through. 2 holes for ping pong ball just sits in there, right? So I took these, it's tempered glass, and I took it like $1,000 a piece, right? But they're garbage. So I took them over to our friend's house who I no longer lived in the city, but they did. And we put it on kegs, and we set up the nicest beer pong table ever. It was this glass tempered. It was incredible. And we played and played and played. And then the problem with tempered glass, I don't know if you know anything about it, it's extraordinarily strong. Tempered glass, you can take a hammer and hit it right on it, and nothing's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And you can take a hammer and tap the side of it, and it will explode. That's the deal. Right. That's the trade-off.
Is that like it's got like a beveled edge? So there's a little bit, almost like multiple layers.
Yeah.
That you can kind of see on the edge. Yeah.
A little bit. And so what happened, 2 things happened here is our good friend was walking by in a random morning, and like a metal piece on his jeans touched the side. It exploded in his living room.
Oh, fuck.
One of the pieces. And then we only had once you have the one, you didn't have a full table anymore.
Right.
And it doesn't, I cannot stress this enough. Like tempered glass does not break into 4 pieces. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of pieces of glass in the carpet.
Oh my God.
And so it exploded. And then we literally were like, well, we got to take this other one. And we wanted to test it, which was really fascinating because we like took the piece, we put it in a dumpster, and then I took a hammer and I tapped it 3 times, like tink, 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 not hard. And then it just went, whoa. And it's crazy. And now I'm terrified whenever we go to like hotels and my daughter's like, there's glass on the balcony, right? And I'm just like, oh, fuck that. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Explode at any second. But yeah. That was the greatest beer pong table. I have a picture of it. I'll have to find it and maybe post it to the Discord because it was a sweet ass table.
You definitely should do that.
I think it was a good time.